So when I was pregnant, suddenly and unexpectedly, my husband, who was in his 30s, had cardiac arrest. So he did not make it. I had to make a lot of decisions because it wasn't only about myself, there was a child on the way. So I was so in love with my daughter, but so profoundly shocked and sad. So it was a very hard period. But you make a choice, and that's where courage is. You either stay stuck or you move life forward.
Hello and welcome to the Go Encourage podcast, where I talk to real people about real life, trying to gain some insights from their experiences building courage. Before we get started, I just want to encourage you to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. It really helps the channel grow and it helps me to bring more guests onto the podcast. You can also do the same on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Amazon with a like and a follow. And if you're looking for links to social media channels, you can find them at www.goencourage.com. You can also grab a copy of the Courage Journal, which is a 31-day prompted journal designed to help you build courage in your life. All right, with all that said, let's bring on my next guest and let's see where the conversation goes. Hello, Courage Seekers. Today I'm joined by Jessica Love, who is a health coach and a transformational Pilates teacher. But welcome. How are you? Welcome to the Go Encourage podcast today.
I'm very good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I've had a productive week, so lots of energy.
Good. I'm feeling it, feeling the energy.
Fantastic. That's good. We're recording today on a Friday, so it's the end of the week. So there is a little bit of weekend's coming. I don't know if you feel that your end or if you're working.
Yes, I do. No, I'm not working through the weekend. So
excellent. All right. Well, I always start the podcast with a question that has become a bit of a tradition. And that is, do you know what your name means, Jessica?
I do. So my name means to foresee. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I definitely don't resonate with my name because I couldn't have foreseen many of the events that happened in my life. So it feels very contradictory.
Okay. All right. Would you say, if we looked at it from a different perspective, you're much of a planner? Do you plan much ahead?
I used to be. I am now a reformed planner. I no longer plan. I live like
a reformed planner. I like that. Excellent. All right. Okay. I was doing a little bit of research as well, and it comes from the word yiska, which is a Hebrew origin, and it means to see or foresight. It also means God's gift. So I don't know if you resonate with that, but here's a bit of confidence for you. And then fun fact, Jessica was first used by William Shakespeare in The Merchant of Venice. Did not know that. So there you go. On the topic of names, Love, is that your actual surname?
That is my actual surname, yes.
Wow, that's such a strong name. What a name. Incredible. Do you resonate with that? We all know what that means.
I mean, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good at the moment. So at this moment, I resonate with the last name.
Excellent. So before we get into sort of the main topic, I thought we could do a couple of fun facts. Here we go. Favorite food?
Nigiri sushi or anything in season. I eat the rainbow.
Oh, okay. Nice. All right. Flexibility, like it. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Dogs. Do you have a dog?
I used to. I like sausage dogs, but maybe I'll get one again. We'll see.
Okay. Left or right?
Right.
Right. Okay. Favorite season?
Favorite season, spring.
Spring. Any particular reason?
It's so beautiful. It's when all the flowers come out. I love it in London. I think it's just gorgeous seeing all the flowers come out. And also, my daughter was born in spring, so I'm slightly biased.
Nice. Okay. Star sign?
I'm a Libra. And unlike my name, I very much resonate with being a Libra.
So balanced, fair, would you say?
Yeah. So balanced, fair, very social. We typically get on with most people, but obviously every star sign has a flaw. So we can be people pleasers and we can have very high expectations of people. So I resonate with those. Yeah.
Resonate with those. You're reforming.
Reforming.
Are you a dress up or dress down sort of person?
I dress up because I spend most of the week in sports clothing, so in Lycra. So when it's the weekend, I'll take any excuse to get dressed up.
Makes a lot of sense, and we'll come back to that. Are you known for being early, on time, or a late person?
I'm always on time. And this is a big thing I teach people in health coaching is actually you can reduce your stress significantly by just being on time. And your energy is so much better to other people when you arrive on time. So I'm very, very prompt because my energy I reduce my stress exponentially by being on time.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, let's definitely come back to that. And then what's a special place for you?
What's a special, sorry, the
Oh,
tech went out a little bit.
what's a special place for you, a location maybe?
Ooh, a special location for me, anywhere in the mountains with snow is a special
Oh,
place for me. And I do try to get there once a year. I just love being in the mountains. I love skiing and like the feeling of just flowing and being outdoors.
okay. A book, a movie, or a TV show that you'd recommend?
Well, I'm going to stick to Joseph Pilates, Return to Life through Futurology. That's a Joseph Pilates book. It really explains his work and it always inspires me. So it's on my book table and I probably read it multiple times a year. And it's just
Oh.
amazing what an innovator he was.
What made you decide to come on the podcast today?
I think it's such a beautiful pointing way of looking at those hard times and instead looking at them at courageous times.
Mm.
And everybody at some point are going to go through times in their life where they have to turn to courage to move life forward. And it's definitely something I touch upon with clients, both in Pilates and health coaching and within my own personal life. So it really resonated with me.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yes. Having me.
And then the big question, have you subscribed to the Going Courage podcast yet?
Of course I have. And of course, all your listeners should too.
Yeah, I think so too. That's us saying subscribe now.
Yeah.
All right. So just to get to know you a little bit more, kind of understand where you're at, what your passion is, how you're moving forward and things like that. Can we look into a little bit of your upbringing, how you grew up, where you grew up, maybe siblings, that kind of thing? I'm not sure what to pinpoint the first question. A little bit about your background. How about that?
Absolutely. So I grew up in London
Mhm.
and my parents kind of are from all over. Everyone's a first generation something. So I'm first generation English.
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed being brought up in a very international household, especially with my love of food. We always grew up with beautiful seasonal food. That was kind of our thing. And it was very important to eat together as a family. I would say I had a very happy childhood, and I really am appreciative of that. I had lovely parents who were very happily married, a sister. There were the four of us, very close. And I enjoyed school, always was into sports, hence my kind of second career choice. So that was kind of the upbringing.
What kind of nationalities are we talking about here?
We're
Mixture.
talking Turkish, Spanish, Austrian. I mean, it keeps going. So we're very international,
Uh-huh.
and food has always been a really
Mm.
big thing, but also a community thing. We've always, as kind of part of our culture, we invite people around, we eat
Mhm.
together. So it was a very like full social childhood, full of love and family and friends.
Excellent. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm a first generation. No, yeah, I'm first generation here, but my parents are from North India, and it is, everything's around food. Every meeting,
yes,
let's catch up over a cup of tea. But the cup of tea becomes like this whole thing with lots of snacks and all these like delicacies.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally get it.
No one
Um,
leaves home hungry ever.
exactly, exactly. And whereabouts in London did you grow up?
I grew up in Hampstead, so
Mhm.
really lovely. It feels like London, but not London. You feel like you're
Mm.
just outside, very green. So it was really great growing up there. And it's kind of one of those places where it feels like a community. Everywhere you walk, you see someone you know, and it feels city, but not city.
And close enough to be right in the city within, 10, 15 minutes, something like that, isn't it?
Exactly, very accessible.
Excellent. Okay. And then if you think of yourself as a young girl, did you have a particular ambition? Did you have any aspirations that you wanted to work towards?
very much. So my parents were very into winter sports, my family. That's our
Mhm.
thing. We love winter sports. And they put me on ice skates when I was 3 years old.
Three.
And I literally, if I wasn't on the ice, we had like slippery wooden floors. I would slide around them all day and pretend to ice skate. And I was obsessed with Torval and Dean.
Oh,
And it
yes.
was such a passion. I literally would wear my ice skating clothing even if I wasn't skating. It hijacked a lot of my mind in my childhood. So that was a big passion of mine. And later it became film and TV and working in the industry, which
Mhm.
I did go on to do. Ice skating, I did not go on to do.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, didn't we, off camera,
Yeah.
in terms of that world. How did you find yourself from where you were going into the TV and film industry?
It was something I was passionate about. So I've always really enjoyed being analytical subjects. So like I
Mhm.
loved English, and I always found when I watched films and TV, I'd almost really analyze them, and I wanted to know so much more than just what I was watching, like what went on
Mhm.
behind, where did the story come from. So it kind of, again, like much like Pilates, it started to hijack my mind. And once I finished, so I went to study film. And then when I finished that, I knew that LA would have a lot of opportunities.
Mm.
And I went there to further study. And then I ended up working there and living there. I was a line producer. So that's kind of the finance and logistics side of TV. So that's kind of how that all worked out.
So is that people coming to you saying, we want to create this, how do we do it, in terms of where the finance is coming from?
Well, initially, so the line producer, definitely there's an element of that pitching the budgets. Sometimes you'll come on when the budgets have already been approved and you're just
Mhm.
handling the day to day. So any decisions that happen, just making sure that it's logistically feasible, both
Mm.
practicality wise and within budget. So it's really beautiful. You're working with tons of creative people, but in some ways you have to be a little bit of the logic behind beautiful ideas. Sometimes we have to do what's in reality with budget, with logics. But it was so fun being surrounded by these amazing, incredible, creative minds. I really did enjoy it.
Mm.
Um, but it is a lot of work and it becomes your life. That's something people don't know about behind the
Mm.
scenes of the film industry is when you work in the industry, it is your entire life.
Mm. Is that, are you saying long hours, no downtime?
No
You.
downtime.
Mm.
No downtime. So a line producer is a 24/7 job. You don't put your phone on silent ever, and you will get calls at 3 a.m.,
Mm.
5 a.m. You spend a lot of time in the office and a lot of time on set. And the typical hours for those who aren't line producers could be anywhere from 12 on the shorter side to 16 hours.
Mm.
And you're traveling all over LA to get to the locations. So it's
Wow.
not necessarily the healthiest job. I've gone the other way because it really is not much sleep. So, yeah.
Hashtag burnout, right? You can
Yes,
see it.
exactly. Fun, but burnout eventually. So,
It's interesting because you were saying, you were around a lot of creatives then. So I'm thinking about your icebreaker questions, and you answered right when we said left and right. And I wonder, being around lots of left brain people, there is an element of, right, guys, I love the creativity, but we've actually got to get the vision done, right? So let's move forward.
that's actually a good way of thinking of it. Yes, had to be a little bit of the reason, but I really enjoyed that world. I really did, and I'm still really friendly with a lot of people from that world today, and I love
Mm.
when they visit me in London.
Yeah, because London's amazing too, right? LA.
Yes, I would want them to come and visit.
So,
Yeah.
are you? Is there anything you can, like? Obviously, look, it's the TV and film world, right? So, I think I would regret not asking you any cool stories that you got to share. Anything you're allowed to say?
I'm trying to think. And you know what? I never had anything too crazy happen. I always feel like I should have more. It really was. It's not as glamorous as people think. And actually, so I'm kind of going to be the kind of, it's great, it's fun, it's exciting. You're surrounded by honestly amazing, inspiring people.
Hmm.
Um, but it really is, you're working hard. It's the opposite of glamorous.
Mm.
So not cool stories, but it was lovely. It was a lovely time in my life. And trying to think if anything does stand out. But I think it's massively community. It's a huge
Right.
community. I mean, there's like 100 people on a small scale set. So, but nothing too out there. Maybe that's a good thing.
Maybe that's a good thing. Yeah, yeah. Did you meet anyone that we would say is famous or an A-lister or
A
thing?
fair amount. So when I was starting out, I had worked on the Marie Osmond show. So that's someone the older generation would
Mhm.
know. I'd worked with Elton John. We did an event where we were raising money. And then just in general in LA, I mean, you see, I think the person that excited me most as someone who's behind the scenes was Quentin Tarantino, who's sitting a
Oh,
few
yeah.
seats down from me at the cinema. And then we all spoke after. But I think that's LA, as you're constantly bumping
Mm,
into famous people, that it's not as exciting
mm.
because that just is silly. So
It's just the way it goes. Yeah.
yes.
Do you ever bump into Aaron Sorkin? That would be cool. He's my
Yeah.
guy.
Yes. Yes, that would be cool.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Um, so so you're in LA doing this kind of work. What happened between? Well, not what happened. How did you find yourself doing all of that? I mean, I know we touched on burnout there, and then becoming a transformational coach. What was the thinking behind that, or did you fall into that?
No, I definitely didn't fall into it. It really was a decision, and probably that's one decision I would put under courageous. So one was
Mm,
moving to LA, I'd probably
hmm
say. Um, but for me, it was I definitely was burning out, and I'm someone who's really into health. And I would say it's a bold statement, but the film industry, TV industry, is one of the most unhealthy industries.
hmm
Again, we're not sleeping. There is a documentary, if anyone is interested, called "Who Needs Sleep," and it really
Oh,
encapsulates how unhealthy um, that
oh,
industry is.
sorry, I'm
Um,
just writing it down.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. But you're eating what you're given on set, which isn't always the best food. You eat what you're given. And there's because you're working 16-hour days on average, you've really got to make a collective effort to move your body.
hmm
So I think the more unhealthy the industry was, the more I became obsessed with wanting to be healthy because LA is known as a healthy city, but the
mm,
whole industry and behind the scenes makes it very hard. So it
mm,
became such an interest. And I loved Pilates. I was introduced to it actually in London before I even moved to LA. My mum missed a lesson and was like, "Do you want to have it?" And that was the love. So it basically hijacked my brain. All I could think about was the idea of working as a Pilates instructor, owning a studio, moving into health coaching. I had just visualized all these ideas. And because I found it very hard to get to a studio, I actually bought a reformer and just did it at home on my own anytime I had. And the more I did it, the more this idea became obsession. I'd go to sleep thinking about it, wake up thinking about it. So after 2 years of that, I was like, this is such a passion. I really need to do something here.
mm,
Um, I didn't just up and quit the job. I moved to a more part-time job because I couldn't have done that job, like just pitching budgets for people while
mm.
studying a very intense 400-hour course in the evenings. So, and I haven't looked back. So,
Wow. And that was all birthed in LA.
all in LA.
Wow. Okay. All right. Um, and then last question before I ask you, let's get into courage is,
Yes.
what does family life look for you now? What does community life
So,
look like for
well,
you?
family life is myself and my daughter.
Mhm.
So she's 5 years old. And I don't want to say it's just her and I'm very, very lucky. I have the most amazing family. So I've got my sister, who one of her children are the same age, and she doesn't live far. I've got the most amazing parents, literally superstar grandparents. And then in general, just my extended family and my friends are amazing. So we have the gifted family, and then we have the chosen family, and
Mm.
we're a very beautiful community. I'm very happy with the community we have
Excellent. And from what you said before, surrounded by delicious food all the time as well.
all
So
the time of
winning.
seasonal food in this house all the time.
Excellent. All right. So if we could dive into a little bit about what you do, and of course, your personal experience of the things that you bring to the table in terms of what you're putting out there in the world. What does courage look like for you?
So courage for me, I'd say it's not loud. It's almost like a silent thing. And it's when in those difficult times where you make a decision no matter how difficult it is, you kind of whisper to yourself and you say, I can still do this. I'm still going to live my life. And no, I can't choose what's going to happen to me, but I can choose what I do with the situations that are handed to me. So it's always living in flow or moving forward as opposed to staying backwards. And definitely there are a few points in my life where I've had to really tap into that mindset, and it hasn't always been easy.
So if someone was listening today, obviously they probably don't know you, and they're thinking, okay, how can I relate to this lady? She's a coach. She's telling me that, courage is moving in flow and moving forward. Could you share something that you may have gone through that made you really dig deep? Maybe we could start with you moving to LA. Like that would have taken some courage.
So I'd consider that one of my courageous events. So I was a 20-year-old with a huge passion. And I think it's funny, the 2 careers I've had have always come from a place of passion. Like when things hijack my brain, I know that's when I need to do something. And that was. So I didn't really know anyone in LA, but I had this dream. And I knew at that point, LA was a great place to go for that. There was also a course there that I thought would be a great entry into the film industry. I felt like I would make some contacts there and also learn some things that they hadn't taught me at my university. So that's what I did. I made that decision. Off I went, very far away from family, huge time difference. And it was great. It was great for my career. It really did. Taking that risk, which at the time was an unknown, was beneficial. It really got me into the doors and where I needed to be at that time. So I don't know that I was fearful. I think I was 20 and passionate. So for me at that point, it didn't feel courageous. But when I look back, I'm like, that was quite bold. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bold. But I really like the point, that you're overcome with passion. It almost becomes like a calling to pull you in that direction. And sometimes, earlier on you talked about Libra and the people-pleasing side of things. So I wonder if that was enough to pull you forward without your brain saying, oh, what if this and this person might get upset and, I'm going to lose out on these kinds of things. Because sometimes we do that when we overthink, don't we?
That is actually a very valid point. And I think, at that point it was all-consuming passion. And I think that really was what I went with, is I was like, this is the place. This is what I want to do. And I need to try and see what I can do.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a really good lesson in that, the overthinking. And sometimes we can catch ourselves finding reasons not to do something. And then feel satisfied logically with not doing something. But actually, if we tap into our heart and what it's asking us and what it's urging us to do, sometimes it's just a matter of jumping into that and allowing the logic just to fade away a little bit within reason.
I actually think perfectionism, we talk about it as if it's a strength. I think it's one of the things that holds us back the most. So when we're a perfectionist, we may not do courageous things because we're scared of the outcome, if it's not going to lead to a guaranteed perfectionist state. So it actually withholds us from a lot of things, even so much as someone may not go to the gym, because what if they don't move perfectly? What if they fail the diet that they're trying? And I think it withholds us. So when we kind of get rid of that perfectionist mindset and just kind of live a bit in flow and listen to our instincts within reason, obviously, I think it opens up a lot of doors, and we can't open up those doors if we're scared of it not being perfect.
Yeah, I can relate to that totally. And it's a bit like even just going to the gym, right? I must do this many sessions a week, and I must hit this because for whatever reason that people are going to the gym. But actually, if you need a down day, then to listen to your body, to listen to that and go, okay, I'm not going to hit my perfect streak of whatever it is that I'm trying to get to. But sometimes you need to just listen and be present in the moment.
Because if we burn out, we're going to be put off it, and then we're not sustaining. It's better to listen, don't burn out, but keep going, because that's consistency is always going to be better than constantly doing and doing and doing more. We want long term.
Yeah. And even, on a deeper level, subconsciously, you're going to create a negative attachment to the very goal that you set yourself. Right?
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
because then it becomes a chore as opposed to how do I feel enjoyment.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. And I think for me, I don't have very many gym goals, admittedly, at the moment. I've got other things going on. But one of the things that grounds me back is to write down my goals, write down my vision, write down my values, and have them easily accessible, so that whenever I'm in a place of limbo or I'm thinking, oh, should I do this? Oh, should I take on this new thing? I'm like, wait, let's go back to my goal right now. What is my goal? Okay, great. Does this align with it? Does it not? I have to make some decisions around that. Usually I would try and pick things that align with my goal. If it's not in line with my goal, then it has to have a good reason. So there's some thinking involved there, but it's kind of like top level as opposed to, do I feel like doing this today? Is it more comfortable to eat cake and sit on the sofa,
And I always say with things like that, goals are really good to have, but the most important thing is feelings. So
Mm,
when we have the goal, that's great, but then how do we want to feel? Because even on those days, because life's going to ebb and flow, we're going to have days where we're tired. It's sometimes on those days where we feel like sitting on the sofa and having the cake. If we focus on how we feel, it sometimes will reignite that
mm,
want to do the thing, because that's more sustainable than a goal. So for instance, if someone's goal was, I would like to have abs, you either get the abs or you don't get the abs, and then you're unmotivated because you've either achieved it or you haven't. But
mm.
if it's like, I want to feel clarity, I want to feel mobile or strong or empowered, whatever the feeling that resonates with you is, it's more likely to keep getting you to
Mm.
do the things, because a feeling is more important than a goal. It's more long term. It doesn't change.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and when you marry the two up, they work really well together, right?
Mhm.
So,
100%.
I mean, that's a big one, right? A common one, should I say? I want abs. Okay, why? Why do you want the abs? What's the
Exactly.
reasoning behind it? Is it
Mhm.
to flex off at the beach in summer? Is it because
Yeah,
you like the look of them? Is it because it makes you feel like you have a much more core strength? Like, what is the
exactly.
underlying?
And how do you feel when you have them? And that's the underlying is
Mm.
more important. It's deeper.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Because I think sometimes we can create a goal that we think we want because we've based it on what you touched on earlier, and that's perfectionism and
Mhm.
looking like, the fake Photoshop or AI nowadays edited, picture of the guy
Mhm.
or the girl that you're trying to look like.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay, so we're talking a little bit about mindset there. And I want to come back to something that you said earlier on, and that was around, the question about being early, late, or on time? And
Yes.
you were talking about reducing stress.
Mhm.
Could you unpack that a little bit?
Absolutely. So when we're late to things, first of all, that's time management.
Hmm.
And that's an easy fix. We need to be better at time managing. That's something I do with a lot of clients in the health world. But when we time manage ourselves better, we arrive in a calmer state. Because in the lead
Mm,
up, when we're late, we're huffing, we're puffing, we're rushing, we're already in a fast paced world, adding to that stress. When
mm,
you arrive everywhere on time, if not a little bit earlier, you arrive composed. You're not rushing. If there's a delay, because things are going to happen, that's the way the world works, it's not the end of the world because you've left enough time. But also, the energy that you give people is so important. Anyone that you're meeting, it's important to value their time, and you're going
mm,
to arrive so much calmer, so much more composed, and that's going to be the energy that's set for the rest of that meeting.
mm,
So for me, I really believe that being on time reduces such a massive amount of stress. It's such a small lifestyle change, but suddenly the person who walked in front of you or the car who beeped at you or the train delay doesn't seem that big. It's not the end of the world,
mm.
because
Yeah, and
those are small problems.
I'm just
Yeah.
thinking of someone who's coming in consistently late because of lack of time management.
Mhm.
And so just spelling that out is, getting to a meeting maybe 10 minutes late, you're flustered. You
Mhm.
might be thinking, oh, I set a bad impression, all that kind of stuff. And then you're back to back, but you haven't allowed yourself much travel time if there's a journey involved, or just some downtime to process what's just happened. And you carry that into your next meeting, your next meeting, your next meeting. And then all of a sudden you're kind of spiraling all over the place. You're not being your authentic self and talking from a place of, like you said, just calmness. and it affects your whole day. And if you keep doing that every day, then no wonder your life is kind of spiraling all over the place and you're being pulled from pillar to post type thing. Um,
100%. And
s-
energy is contagious. If you're bringing that energy
mm,
to your meeting, everyone else is going to feel it. Like, I really
mm,
believe your energy. So if anyone who I'm meeting, I value their time and I want to bring them good energy, but I also value my levels of stress. I don't want to stress my nervous system. So
mm.
just by being early or arriving on time, I keep that calmer.
Yeah, I like that. I like the way you phrase that, because if you're trying to manage your levels of stress, we're talking about being reformed people pleaser, and I can
Yes.
definitely relate to that. And actually, when you do things for others and put them first, which I think is important, absolutely,
Yeah.
it's
Acts of
lovely.
service, definitely.
But if you do that to the detriment of yourself, then you go into that spiral again, and that calm energy is gone again, and you're panicking, which will then impact other things like time management, so to speak.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Um, if someone was really terrible at managing time, is it a skill that can be learned?
100%. The interesting thing is, transformation is possible. We can rewire our brain with most things.
Hmm.
So if we have told our brain, I'm always late, I'm bad at time management, that's the way your brain believes you to be.
Mm,
But when you start changing your habits and you do it consistently, so we reschedule, we figure out where we're kind of not managing our time well, you start to make that who you are. So our brain can
mm,
always be rewired, but we have to do it enough times to remind our brain, our amygdala, which is
mhm.
also our drama queen, that we that we aren't that person who's always late and that we can. And then it habits habits are habits, but we can always change them. But we have
Mm,
to consistently do it for it to stop going back to old patterns.
mhm,
And that's the same with, overeating. It's all about rewiring our brain,
mm.
changing the story we tell ourselves, but then consistently doing whatever the healthier option is.
So again, I'm thinking about people who are listening. But Jessica, I'm trying. I'm telling myself I'm going to be on time, but I'm not on time. But I don't know how to rewire my brain. What would you say would be a good starting point?
Well, we'd have to look at someone's habits. What's their
Mhm.
day to day? Where is this happening?
Mm,
Are they over agreeing to things? Are they overcommitting to things? Are they agreeing to meet people earlier? What if you push the meetings half an hour later, right?
mm,
But then now you've pushed it half an hour later. Do we need to set a little pretty noise in your phone? Better not to. But if that's going to remind you half an hour earlier, takes you half an hour to leave the house, maybe you've got children and you've got to kiss them goodbye and do
mm,
all the things. It's bio-individual. So my approach is
mhm,
there is never one habit change that's going to fit everyone.
mhm,
My first session with any client is them talking and I'm listening.
mhm.
Then we come up with the plan because I need to know why they're late. I need to hear their whole day,
Yeah.
what's happening. But we'll find a way, and that way has to keep happening for them to learn to better time. So maybe if they're going to this meeting at 8 p.m. What if they make it 8:30? And what's happening between that now added half an hour that they've little things
Mm,
like that. Um, but it's always going to be bio individual. Our lifestyles are not the same, but
mm.
everyone can be on time.
Yeah. Okay. So it's taking stock of what's going on right now and what
And
that
then
looks like.
changing what we've constantly been doing. And the story, I don't have time. You have time for what you want. It really is true. You have time
Mm,
for what's important to you. If suddenly reducing your stress levels and a heightened nervous system is important to you, you will make time to be on time.
mm. Yeah, and it kind of links to that question. If you won the lottery, or if you had millions in your account or whatever, and you're not working for money, well, I mean, to some level, right? What would you choose to do with your time? Because then it really shows you what your priorities are in life as well, isn't it?
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Because when I talk to people, I work in health and well-being a couple of days a week, and we're helping people who maybe have become sort of unroutined, have some mental health challenges, low confidence, things like that. And one of the common things that come on is can't sleep, so I'm on my phone at night, and before I know it, I'm in YouTube or all the social medias, and I've switched from one to the other, and before you know, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I force myself to get up, and I'm tired, and da-da. So it's kind of like pinpointing. Okay, well, that's a clear example of what might be going wrong. How can we come to a place to wean you off that, or go cold turkey depending upon the person, right? Because like you said, it depends on the individual, and then we can kind of work through better habits, can I say, or healthier habits.
100%. And that is something I find with some clients is it's the phone. And it's interesting because a lot of studies, we talk about the blue light, but actually a lot of studies recently are showing that it's not so much the blue light that's preventing us from sleeping. It's the distraction of scrolling. Once you keep scrolling, it's kind of addictive. And then you get into that zone and lose track of time. So for a lot of people, why not stop scrolling an hour earlier? What can you do in that hour? There's many other options. What would resonate with you? Would reading a book, would stretching, would sitting with a cup of tea, meditating. There's many other options that are going to help you not lose track of time and have a good night's sleep. So,
which don't sound as exciting, let's be honest, right? Like when you've got the information around the world at your fingertips, or now you've got AI to ask these, profound questions to and come to answers that, are very exciting to read, let's say, or you just want to guilty pleasure watch something and it makes you feel good. Like trying to get from that mindset to just having some downtime, maybe reading something that's interesting, or having some breath work time, or Pilates, which we'll get onto in a second as well, like yoga, things like that. It can seem like another world in comparison.
But the lack of sleep kind of it's detrimental to our health. I think when you start paying attention to that, then you do want to do techniques. So even people who have lack of sleep, I think there's a statistic. It's like if you don't sleep well and you're tired the next day, you're almost having like an extra 300 to 400 calories the next day. So you're going to gain weight. And then there's the stress on the body. And in terms of proactiveness the next day, enjoyment, you're not enjoying yourself as much. So you might enjoy those 2 hours of scrolling, but the next day, there's not going to be much enjoyment. And at some point, it's going to really catch up with you. So I think when we realize one of the biggest things that helps us make healthy decisions is off our plate, and it's sleep. It really puts a lot of importance on the build up to sleep, because we can't just go from 100 to sleep. We need some kind of downtime.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so I guess there's education involved in that, just to say, look, these are the benefits. It might not feel as fun, but actually this is what's going to do to your body.
Exactly.
And we are, to be fair, we are starting to see trends coming in that are going in that direction. So things like people do cold water plunges in the morning, journaling. I'm a big advocate for journaling.
Me too.
And walks in the morning, just getting back to nature, leaving your phone at home, things like that. So we are starting to see a shift in people's patterns going in that direction. But I think coming back to, we were talking about goals earlier on, it's having a vision, isn't it? Why do I want to make a change? And it might feel scary, but actually, if I know why I'm doing what I'm doing, then courage starts to rise up from within, doesn't it?
100%. When you know your why, exactly, courage will stick in it, because a why is so powerful. And that's where passion comes from. I think it's once you know your why. And that's when I think anytime things have hijacked my brain, it's always been the why, then the hijack, then the courage, because then it's all consuming and you need to do the thing.
So Jessica, Pilates, big thing.
Yes.
I actually don't know much about it. So forgive my ignorance with some of these questions, but what is it exactly?
So Pilates is a mind-body movement. Originally, it was called Contrology, but we have now named it after Joseph Pilates, so it's called Pilates.
Right.
And people always ask me about, like, did he name it after his name? No, he didn't. We did, to honor him. And we have a lot of apparatus, so some of it you'll see in my background. But we also do mat Pilates too, and it's really mindful movement. It's a continuous flow, and it's strength training, it's flexibility, but you don't have to be flexible to do it. It's rehabilitative, and it's really powerful, the mind, because it just connects your mind to your body. So it's not spiritual. So for instance, yoga has a spiritual side, but you escape through being fully aware of how your body feels.
Right. Okay. And what So you said Joseph Pilates is what it's named after, who it's named after, I should say.
It's named after,
What
yes.
what was the thinking behind the whole movement?
So initially, people always associate it with dancers because later on
Right.
dancers realized how beneficial it would be for their practice. And that's what oftentimes scares people about Pilates is they
Mhm.
feel like you have to be a professional dancer, really flexible to do it. But
Mm.
actually, Joseph Pilates, who was a man, so Pilates
Mhm.
is very much for men too, created it for injured war veterans in World War One.
Right.
He rehabbed them, so he used it as a very rehabilitative tool. Um, so for anyone who hasn't tried Pilates because they're worried that they have to be flexible or it's
Mhm.
a female sport, it really is for everybody.
Mhm. It was one of my questions actually, because I have not met a single man who does Pilates, and I just wondered if it was more targeted towards women. But you're saying actually its origins were for war veterans. It's really
Work
interesting.
veterans, and actually now a lot of professional male athletes too are doing Pilates. So a lot of footballers. I know a teacher in LA. She primarily teaches the American footballers, and people are realizing that it's number one, amazing long term to keep the body stable and mobile, but also it enhances any other sport that they do.
Mhm.
So a lot of athletes, both female and male, are coming to Pilates, and I would say at the moment, I probably have a 40% male to 60% female
Okay.
ratio, which means it's moving forward. And I think more men are seeing that it is really beneficial.
Yeah, fantastic. And if someone was just starting out, what would you advise? What's a good starting point?
A good starting point, I always recommend if you can afford it, a one-to-one is a great way to
Mhm.
really learn Pilates. But if not, most studios have foundation classes.
Mhm.
And those are really good, but please go in person for your first class, not
Right.
online. And I think the reform is amazing too. All apparatus of Pilates or non-apparatus is amazing. But if you can get onto a reformer, it's
Mhm.
especially if you've come from a weightlifting world, it's a really nice leeway into it. It looks intimidating, but it's so safe and it's very fun, and there's so much variety you can do on it.
Is that what is behind you right there?
What's behind me there?
Ah,
Yes.
okay.
So you can do everything and anything on it. And it's so safe. It positions you perfectly. So your form is positioned perfectly. It's got weights. So it is weight training, which is important for bone density and our long term health.
Mm,
But there is nothing you cannot do on this machine. It's really
great.
amazing. Yeah.
And I think the key takeaway there is you said not to do it online straight away. Go and do it face to face with someone in person. And I'm assuming that's so you don't pick up bad habits or do things in
Yeah.
a unhealthy way, maybe.
Yes, Pilates is quite it's anyone can do it, but
Mhm.
it's just, I think for the first session, it's so nice to kind of make sure that you're doing correct. And I have nothing against online. I think online is wonderful. And I love that Pilates is accessible. I'm so happy. The more people do Pilates, the happier I am. I love that it's accessible. But I think for a first session, go in person. And then if online's what you're looking for, then maneuver onto online.
Excellent. And then if we combine the two together, so the health coaching that you're doing and then the transformational Pilates, do you have clients that come to you for both of those and you work? I mean, I guess my question is, how does that work? Are they doing Pilates and then you're giving them some health coaching while they're doing it, or are they separate sessions?
Absolutely. So there's three models I have to my business. So
Mhm.
Pilates, I have a lot of long-term clients who are recurring, but I also work with a clinic. So we
Right.
get some injured clients who come for rehabilitation. Typically, they end up staying even when they're rehabbed because they end up loving it so much.
Mhm.
Um, and then with health coaching, it's not meant to be a forever thing. So it's the opposite of Pilates.
Mhm.
I would like my clients to now have had better habits and better coping mechanisms
Mhm.
for whatever reason they came to me. So it's usually 6 weeks to 6 months. And the
Mhm.
goal is that we kind of work on rewiring the brain, on new habits, on finding the why that they can kind of go off on their own. So it's two very different models. But some of my Pilates clients have temporarily done a dual coaching and Pilates package with me, which is
Mhm.
really amazing. So they really complement each other.
Yeah, great. Really good. And then through your coaching side of things, when you said they're 6 weeks to 6 months, depending upon what I guess the goal is and things like that. Do you find that people stay? Well, I guess the way I'm trying to think of it in my head is, once people have committed to that, do you feel that they have a good level of accountability to see through their goals, or do you find yourself back in LA doing your line producing and keeping them on check?
A great thing about my job is anyone who comes to see me really wants to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So my clients really want to be there. So they typically deep down inside know what they need to do, but they're not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what we're working on, is why do you know, but you're not doing. So I bridge that gap. And that's what health coaches do, is we bridge that gap between what we know, but what we aren't doing. So I'm really lucky. I really get clients who are really willing and wanting to do the work.
Fantastic. Really good. And I guess, I'm a bit like this with therapy as well, big advocate for therapy. And I think if you're going to go to a
Yes.
therapist, go in there open and go in there and grab an ounce of courage and say, right, I'm here for a reason. Let's go and tackle whatever it is that's been holding me back. And I think that works the same way with health coaching and Pilates as well. I guess, like, you go in there, let's go and tackle the thing. Don't do it just as a tick box exercise. You're not going to get anywhere.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I agree with that. And I'm a big advocate of therapy too. I believe the most important thing is what's going on in here. So
Yeah, for sure. Advocates for therapy, both of us here, and advocates for journaling. So do you journal?
I do. I'm a very big fan of journaling, and I like to do it in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not one of those wellness people who has a huge, crazy morning wellness routine like many. I have a job, I have a child, but journaling is something that I do in the morning. I think it takes no time, and I think it sets your day up really well. I like to have an intention every day, and I like to give myself an affirmation. One thing I do want to say about affirmations is the affirmation always has to be something you believe to be true. If we give ourselves affirmations we don't believe to be true, we start our day with cognitive dissonance. So we talk about affirmations, they're very helpful, but they have to be used correctly. And there's always something positive we can find that we believe to be true. And I think when you do that, again, it sets your day up, it sets the mind up. So I'm a big advocate.
Earlier on, we talked about rewiring the brain. And would you say affirmations are a good way to do that? But what I'm hearing there is, but we need to be able to believe what we're saying over ourselves.
100%. And I think we talk so much about affirmations in the wellness world, but I think this is a very important caveat, because if we were to say something we don't believe to be true, again, that's cognitive, it's going to make us feel worse. If, let's say, let's go visuals, we'll talk about looks. Let's say you've put on lots of weight and you're not feeling your best self. If you're looking in the mirror and just you're trying to rewire the brain saying, I feel so beautiful today, I feel so beautiful, my body's so great, and you really don't believe it, you really don't, it's not going to make you feel better. It's not. But it could be, so for instance, an affirmation I like to use for myself, it's one I use quite often, is when let's say I'm going through a hard time because life ebbs and flows,
Yeah.
I might look in the mirror and say, this is not the worst thing I've been through. If I can get through what I got through, I can certainly get through this. I believe and I know that to be true. So it's a really beautiful affirmation for me because it sets my day up positively. I know I can get through whatever's happening. So it has to be within the realm of realism. But when it is, it's very powerful and a very helpful tool.
And there's a strong element of truth in the example that you used there as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And did I hear you say doing that in the mirror?
It doesn't have to be in the mirror. The mirror's an example. Most of the time it's in my journal.
Right. Okay.
So in my journal, after I've had my breakfast followed by coffee, then I do my journaling.
Got to get that coffee in, right?
You've got to get it in. But after breakfast, we don't want cortisol spikes.
Right. Okay. I mean, I say that as a non-coffee drinker, but okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. And then in terms of like the journal, looking back, do you ever do that? Do you ever take? So I journal as well, and I challenge myself to try and look back a little bit more often.
I do. Yeah,
So do you do that?
I do. I love looking back at the journal. I think it's really important to see how far you've come or what you still should work on. And also, sometimes you might want to go back to something in there.
Mm,
And typically it's beautiful, positive affirmations within your realm and intentions. I think it's really nice to look back and reflect. I think self-reflection is really important to
mm.
self-develop. We always want to be developing ourselves. So,
Yeah, and I'll stick in that caveat again, with the intention to move forward in your goal, right? Because I
yes.
think sometimes we can self-reflect, through the TikTok algorithm and everything, and go, oh, and then you go down a rabbit hole and you're actually thinking all the worst things about yourself. And it's like, no, let's use it as analytical data to tell us where we're at, take stock, a little bit like what you said before, and then go, right, what can I do to keep moving forward, whatever that looks like.
100%. 100%. Yes.
Mm. Okay. On the subject of journals, this is a complete shameless plug, but I have a journal called the
Oh,
Courage
that.
Journal. It is designed to help people build courage over a 31-day period. It doesn't have to be used like that, but that's the way it's designed. And it has it has the RISE method, I call it. So R stands for reflect. So you kind of reflect on your day yesterday. I stands for inspiration. So there's a little bit of a quote in there to kind of have a look at. S stands for study. So you kind of study the quote if you want to. What does it mean to you? How does it relate to your life? And then E is to encourage. It's encouragement, but to encourage yourself. So that's where the affirmation comes from. That's where, you put down your intentions for the day, what you're looking forward to, and then you repeat the same thing the next day. So you've got what you're looking forward to, and then you reflect the day after. So the idea is that we keep moving, we keep building courage in our lives. So I'd love to send you a copy of that and see what you think.
Do. I love that. And I love that concept. Again, it really is in that thing of rewiring our brain and constantly doing it, especially if it's 30 days, you're going to make
Mhm.
that your 30-day consistent thing. Love that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And I did Miracle Morning. I don't know if you've come across that by Hal
Yeah.
Elrod.
Yeah, I've heard about it. Haven't dabbled as much into it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays you can watch a 4-minute condensed video on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
But incredible story. But one of the things that really spoke to me, a very simple concept. It's not even
Mhm.
that groundbreaking, but one thing I took away is you can develop any habit within about 20 to 30 days if you keep doing it consistently.
I
So
really
that,
believe that. It's
right.
amazing what you can train the mind or body to do.
Mm. Right, so you could sit in a bad cycle. I'm using good and bad loosely, but you can sit in this cycle that doesn't work for you. Let's put it that way. And you could be in that cycle for 10 years, 15 years, but 30 days is all it takes to rewire. And then you get to the feeling side of things, like you beautifully put earlier on. And once you're sitting there and you know what that feels like now, that brings some accountability, consistency, and some discipline to operate in a new way.
100%. And that's why my health coaching is 6 weeks to 6 months. That's what
Mm,
we need to, you know, really change our habits. And I think when you think of it as 30 days, that's not that long to keep doing
yeah.
something, and it keeps you motivated, and then it becomes something that feels good to you, it
Yeah.
becomes part of life.
And it's so interesting because it's not a modern thing. It's like if you look at, let's say, religious texts and scriptural things, and they talk about 40 days and a 40-day fasting or Lent, or lots of different faiths have different ways of doing that. There is passed down wisdom that if you do things on a daily basis, and it's something that takes some discipline, you're building long term. I don't know if I'm using this the right way, but it's like a slow dopamine release as opposed to an instant one, and therefore it starts to sit with you on a long term, and your body learns, oh, this is good for me, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Absolutely, because that dopamine is our reward and motivation. So,
Mm,
it's if when you do that, you want to keep doing it. So,
mm,
yeah.
yeah, excellent. All right. So I feel like I've picked your brain a lot about coaching and
Yes.
Pilates. I wanted to sort of, please only share what you're comfortable sharing with. But I know you had a significant life event
Mhm.
that I would imagine took a lot of courage to work through. Are you comfortable talking a little bit about
I
that?
Yes, and so I guess there's different types of courage. So the ones I spoke about earlier, the choices when things were passionate
Mhm.
and I chose to do them, then there's courage where you don't have a choice. In
Mm.
some ways you do, but it's an event that you is flung on you because life ebbs and flows. So when I was pregnant, suddenly and unexpectedly, my husband, who was in his 30s, had cardiac arrest. So he did not make it. So 6 months pregnant in LA. I had to make a lot of decisions because it wasn't only about myself, there was a child on the way. So,
Mhm.
number one, I wanted to make sure that I was the best version of myself for this child who now has one parent. And then also, I decided to move countries, which meant restarting my career. So I've essentially restarted careers 3 times,
Mhm.
but I stayed in the same career. And I think those times involved a lot of courage, but I also was very distracted. And I think anyone who goes through grief will know there's a lot to deal with. And then there was a
Yeah.
newborn. So I was very distracted and I didn't face what had happened, even though I felt all the feelings and it was a
Mm.
horrible time in my life. I didn't sit with the feelings. So my courage came maybe later.
Mhm.
Um, I then, when my daughter went to nursery, I was still kind of building the business. I hadn't kicked off where it was now. I was less busy. I kind of still distracted and worked out a lot. I probably overworked out because I
Mhm.
didn't want to sit with feelings. Sitting with feelings is a lot of courage, and I couldn't
Mm.
sit with those feelings. So I overworked out. I think working out's one of the best things for your mind, but
Mhm.
overdoing anything isn't great. And I was looking for the endorphins, that feel good hormone, and then dopamine, which is our reward and motivation and can be highly addictive. It's actually the dopamine that is highly addictive. And I kept
Mm.
looking for that feeling because that feeling was more comfortable than facing what had happened.
Mm.
Um, and then eventually I realized, that I needed to learn to sit with feelings. And I think that's where my courage came in. I needed to have a healthier approach to working out. So working out's great for the mind and use that, but in a much more balanced way, not over fatiguing my body, not chasing PBs, so personal bests, and uh, spending hours on hours in the gym. And I think for me, learning to sit with what happened was probably a very
Mm.
courageous time. And then learning to, once you learn to sit, you learn to accept that something
Mm.
has happened. And with that, I wasn't a health coach back then. I was Pilates. I hadn't made that career additive. That actually came after, and I think but I was very into that kind of thing. So using
Mhm.
those tools um, to sit with the feelings and then make the choice to move life forward. And I think something that changed is before that happened, I was a perfectionist because
Mm.
it was easy for me to be. Life had been easy and breezy. But then I learned you can't control anything that's
Mm.
going to happen to you. And I learned to live in flow. And I think when I learned to live in flow, everything felt more spacious, lighter, and I felt more, and I still do feel more authentically myself.
Mhm.
It really, I think that shift in mindset where you realize you can't change anything, but just focus on the moment has been a massive help to me.
Yeah, for sure. And if I could zoom in a little bit, so there's a point there where you've acknowledged that you weren't dealing with what the grief and all the emotions that come with that. And you've got to a place now where you're like, okay, I've got to sit with this. What do you remember in terms of making that decision? Because that was a decision, right? You could have
Mhm.
continued like that forever,
I could
but
have,
you
yes.
you said to yourself, right, I need to face this. Do you remember anything about what you might have been feeling or any motivation to go and get some help?
Absolutely. One thing I've never had is an ego. So I take feedback really well.
Mm.
And so I was, again, I don't, I want to emphasize that exercising is one of the best things for our mind, but not to the extent that I was doing.
Sure.
I was eating the same. I've always had a healthy relationship with food, but if I'm eating the same and I'm working out the way I was working out, my weight flew off. And I
Mm.
started to have quite a lot of people be like, Jessie, you okay? We're quite worried about you. And for me, I took the feedback. I was like, oh, whoa, I have lost a lot. And I started to pay attention to how I felt, which then I was just looking for endorphins and looking for dopamine and completely escaping. And I realized like my body is fatigued. I'm going to bed really early. I'm very social person. I'm maybe socializing less because I'm just wanting to be at the gym. And it made me tap into that health coach mindset where it's like, you have to feel multiple things to be happy. And I generally today, I filled in this thing called the circle of life, which is a a health coach thing. And it lets you know where you are, what areas of your life need to be worked at. Today I filled it in and it was almost a full circle. So
Oh.
you have to work on all areas to really deal with hard things. And so it when I realized that working out that much was escapism, it just put my attention more broadly onto all areas of my life and working on building that to live a happy, full, and healthy life.
So would you say that at that point you then realized, okay, something's not right. I know you're an advocate for therapy. Was that a time where you went and got some help and said, right, I'm going to go and face this thing?
So one thing I did do correct in these unpredictable times, for me, this was sudden, unexpected. I was not
Of
prepared
course.
to
Yeah.
happen, is I actually almost 2 days after it happened, no one had to say it to me. I immediately did therapy. So I've always been doing therapy,
Okay.
but therapy is 1 hour in a week. So what I needed, and the therapist would tell me this, she's like, Jess, you are, at some point it's going to hit you and it may not be for years because you are busy with a newborn baby, you're too busy. And she was very right. At some point it hit me because therapy is amazing, but you still have many other hours in your day
Sure.
where you have to, deal with hard situations if you're going through them. So
And, the sort of obvious thing here is you're becoming a mum for the first time as well. And that comes with a whole bunch of lots of emotions, lots of hormones, lots of body changes, all the rest of it as well. So it's kind of like you're in new territory anyway, plus you're trying to deal with what's gone on. So everything is everywhere, I would have imagined.
it was a very bittersweet time. I was so in love with my daughter, but so profoundly shocked and sad. So it was a very hard period. But you make a choice, and that's where courage is. You either stay
Yep.
stuck or you move life forward. And for me, I have a sad story, but I'm not a sad story. I have a
Yeah.
very full and happy life, but I had to at some point be really proactive and work. We can't work on one area of our life. We have to work on our circle, joy, spirituality, community, fundamentally important, sleep, health, so many varying things. And that's our circle of life that we talk about in health coaching. And that's what's going to, no matter what happens, you can rebuild it.
Was there something that you remember that was a significant shift?
I think my story was so weird because I had a new life literally 6 weeks after I'd lost a life. 3 months after, sorry. My mind went 3 months after I'd lost a life. It was a very strange time. And so I just kind of was floating and just surviving and doing what I needed to do. I think for me, then I thought I was doing something proactive, which was working out loads, which was actually completely avoiding. And I understand, I relate to my clients who might overeat and look for dopamine through that to avoid. So while I haven't done that, I understand that sometimes we just are trying to avoid things. But I think I've always been quite a reflective person. And I think it was a New Year's. And I remember on that being like, I'm really young. This happened to me when I was 33 years old. And I have to move life forward. And doesn't mean that you never get over grief. There's no end date. But it's like, I have to build a beautiful life because this, this is just horrific. He didn't get to live a life. My daughter has me. She needs me to be the best version I can. And also, I'm so young. I still have a lot of life to live. And if I reframe, how lucky am I that I'm healthy and I have a lot of life to live? So that's a reframe. So I started reframing things, instead of, oh, poor me, it was, he doesn't get to live these years. I do. How lucky am I? And I think reframing and kind of looking at like, this year I'm rebuilding. And that was my kind of just a New Year's because it's a milestone. And that was kind of what I did. I really worked hard. Initially, it feels like hard work, any change,
Yeah.
but now I really, really can confidently say I'm really happy with my life. Doesn't mean I'm happy with what's happened, but
Of
I'm really
course.
happy with life. And I feel like I have a very full, very peaceful life. And um, it's my birthday this month. So I do my circle of life every time it's my birthday, and just seeing the circle almost perfect made me
Mm,
very happy. It's never going to be perfect. I don't think for anyone that doesn't exist. Perfectionism doesn't exist, but
mm.
it's nice to see how far I've come in all areas
Yeah.
of my life. I guess the profound moment for me was eventually I learned like you can't wrestle with life. You
Mm,
have to learn to like dance with it.
mm,
And before, I was always trying to choreograph everything that happened. And now I'm just fully in flow. Like life's going to do
mm,
what it does. And I think it just keeps you in a calmer state. I'm not, I look forward to a degree, but I live here. I live in the moment. And I think when you've been through something profoundly hard, you learn to really appreciate when things aren't currently in that profoundly hard or shock state. So I
mm,
think I just kind of sit in the moment, and I never used to, I used to live life, and that was when I was at my happiest, is when I'm not thinking about how I feel. But now for me, I'm at my happiest when I'm like, acknowledge it. Like when things are really good,
mm.
I'll say it 50 million times. Like I can't stop. I'm like, this is so good. I'm so happy right now. And it's just, again, reminding myself that moments can be enjoyable and being in that enjoyable moment.
Mm. And I think journaling really helps with that, right? So
100%.
I have a digital journal as well, just like my own thing. And one of the sections in that journal is life feedback. And I do put in there things that people have said that I want to kind of work on, etc. But I put compliments in there, beautiful things that someone might have written in a birthday card or something at work or whatever. And I go back to that to remind myself to listen to those voices, not just the voices in your head that say you're not good enough, you can't do this, da, 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 da. And that's really a good way to reframe what the future looks like as well. Because like, okay, I can do these things, or I am these things. So let's remind myself as I move forward.
100%. Receiving compliments and being able to accept them. I think,
Mm.
sometimes when people compliment people, they're like, no, no. It's like, accept it because it's a really nice thing. And also, it's nice of them. It's a nice gesture of them to do it. But
Mm.
also, actually complimenting someone when it comes from a genuine place
Yeah.
is makes you feel good too. It's the energy you put out is the
Yeah.
energy you get back. So I think it works. It's a beautiful thing. It works two ways.
Yeah, and sometimes if you're not seeing it, then maybe you be the change. You're the one who says to the checkout person, "Hey, really like your hair today," or "That's a cool
Exactly.
top you're wearing," or whatever, and just giving that little bit of, I would say love, but let's say encouragement to
Yeah.
people. And then I think it touches on what you said earlier on about energy. People read that energy, we influence people with that energy, and then hopefully that has a little ripple effect on other people in their lives. So we could take ownership over that as individuals.
100%. 100%. And it feels good. It feels so good. If you mean
Mm.
it and you say it to someone, it feels really lovely just to say it and get it out there.
Yeah, and that's the key. Again, I think it's a common thread throughout the conversation. It's meaning it, isn't it? It's actually feeling the feeling and doing it, because the energy,
Everything from the authentic self.
exactly that. Yeah.
100%.
And I know authenticity is like a word that gets used all the time. Well, I was just being authentic when I insulted you, or, all of that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
actually, authenticity is about being present and being in the moment and being, real about what's happening. And I think when you do that, we instinctively as humans can see if people are being authentic or not. There's an instinct there, there's a consistency to when you have relationships and things.
100%. And I think that's why I'm a reformed people pleaser. Is after this,
Mhm.
I had to move my life from a very hard point forward.
Mm,
And I really am protective of kind of staying as much as I can. I can't control everything and I can't, but I can, can make choices. I can choose the people I surround myself with. And I'm
mhm,
very lucky. I'm surrounded by amazing people who I'm grateful for. But I can also choose the energy I don't stay with. And if
mm,
something doesn't offsets my nervous system, I have the right to distance myself, not from a place of coldness, but from a place of self love and self respect. And
mm,
I think now I really tap into how does my nervous system feel, and kind of honoring how things are feeling to me and trying to keep in that calm nervous system space.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Been through a bit of a difficult thing for the last couple of years. And although logically it's come to a conclusion, I think because I've been on survival mode for so long, I'm starting to listen to my body and go, oh, my nervous system is actually all over the place. And I need to kind of pay attention to it, not fix it. That's the perfectionism, right? But it's pay attention to what's going on
100%.
and ease myself back into,
And
well, not even back into, but rebuilding.
definitely. And stress is, we feel stress. So we feel it in our shoulders, our stomach.
Mm.
And actually, there is science to back that. That's neuroscience. Through our vagus nerve, our brain sends signals to our gut, and our gut sends signals to our brain. You oftentimes hear of people when they're in stress having gut health issues. It's not, it's a thing. Our stress is physical. And so we have to look after the brain to look after our gut, the same way we have to look after our gut to look after our brain.
Yeah.
It's all one conversation. It's all intertwined.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's my life. Like when I was going through the heights of anxiety and panic attacks, I developed IBS and all the stuff that comes around that. And it was actually long-term lifestyle changes that reduced all of that. But even now I catch myself, if I've got a photo shoot in a couple of days, or I'm producing something that I need to deliver or whatever, I start to think about what I'm eating for the next few days in the build up to that, and what I'm doing in terms of sleep and journaling and things like that, because it's all connected, the circle of life thing that you said. And I think that's where people get a little bit lost. They put all their energy into one area and they forget that actually it's all, it's holistic, isn't it? It all works together.
Holistic and neuroscience too. Like really, this and our brain and our gut are 100% corrected through multiple neural pathways, and vagus nerve being one of them. So it really is. It's a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, Jessica, we've covered quite a lot there. I've got loads more questions to ask you, but I'll have to have you back. But I wanted to just, for the last segment of this, just talk a little bit about habits and spirituality and self-reflections. I know it's come up naturally in the conversation. Love languages. Love languages is something I ask people that jump on. Do you find them helpful on your journey? Is that something that comes into the health coaching when?
I think it's very important to know your love language. And I do know mine. So mine is words of affirmation. And also, I think the amount of time I spend with people. Words of affirmation and actions. So words of affirmation and actions. I think actions I would lean towards as being more important than words, because words are lovely and they're meaningful, but actions are what really matter. And I think that ties in also with, it's not just personally, but also professionally, because my whole ethos is about doing actions, making moves to make the things happen. So I'm a big fan of words of affirmation and actions.
Yeah, fantastic.
Took me a minute there, but I do really know this. I don't know why it took me minutes.
That's fine. I mean, when we're in work zone, we're in work mode, right? But we're having an open conversation. It happened to me earlier as well. Yeah, I think I really like that, because I think for me, I can take things quite literally. So if someone says something, I'm like, oh, okay, all right, cool. You've got my back. You've said it. I believe it. But actually, the actions say something else. So I think in the last maybe 5 years or a decade, I've started to go, okay, it's by the fruit of people's actions that you make these judgments. They don't have to be like judgments, but they're just internal. I'm going to assess the situation. Who do I need if I'm in trouble? Who do I pick? Do I pick the person I like, or do I pick the person that actually shows up when I need them? I know that's very me focused, but if you think about that in other aspects of life as well, who is the person, or what type of people, act in this way, and therefore we can put in this department or in this team or whatever. So I'm totally on board with what you're saying there.
100%. That makes, and actions really are everything. They speak louder than words. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about, my brain's going everywhere now, but like when you watch a movie and the hero or the protagonist is said he was going to do this or she was going to do this, and you're like, oh, why did you say that for? You've just messed up the whole thing. But then they actually do the action, and you're like, oh, and it kind of, we kind of know it, don't we? We're like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
where they tell us before it happens. It's so true.
Yeah.
That does annoy me as well.
And I think it speaks to parenting, as a dad of 3, like I will say the thing things. Make sure you don't do this because it will do that. But when they do it, you're still there. You're still there to
Yeah,
clean
yeah,
up afterwards or to make
it's
sure
true.
they're okay. And,
It's so true. Yeah, it is true. Being a parent is very selfless, but lovely.
yes. And as you're forced to be it as well, right? I mean, I know it's a choice, and I know, you can choose to be, you can choose to go in whichever direction you want, but there is this inbuilt instinctive, like,
100%.
my life doesn't belong to me anymore and I'm in a place of service forever.
It's the only unconditional love that, exists, is the love for your own child. It's unconditional.
Yeah, which leads us beautifully into the next point, and that is, are you spiritual? Do you believe in God or a higher power?
So I've become more spiritual in the last few years,
Mm,
and I believe certain things that happen or certain people come into your life, it's unexplainable, and there's sometimes such parallels or such obvious things. And I think the more you lean into spirituality, the more you see those things, and the more you
mm,
see it, the more uplifting it is. But there are so many small things, nothing huge, not a huge story, but little things that happen, or people that have come into my life in the last few years where there really is a reason and I can't explain it, which means there is a higher power.
mm,
And so now I'm more fascinated, and I'm trying to, I guess that's one of my things that I'm working on. We should always be working on things as leaning more into spirituality and being
mm.
more open to it.
Yeah, and there's a sense of wonder that comes with that, right? A
Mhm.
sense of, okay, what does that mean? And maybe I won't ever get to the root meaning of what it means, but actually I can experience it by being open to things that maybe don't quite make sense.
Exactly, exactly. And they don't make sense, but they're so relevant. And that's
Mm.
where it's unexplainable.
Yeah. Although I think, at least in my algorithms or whatever I'm reading, I'm starting to see a lot of science now working towards, quantum realms, and not quantum realms. That's the wrong thing. I'm thinking about a movie right now, but like quantum physics and things starting to explain things that don't quite make sense, but actually
Yes.
there's whole theories that could be true, even if we can't prove them just yet.
It's absolutely fascinating, and that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. I want to read more and more on all of that because it is
Mm,
fascinating, and I think there's so much more coming out with that. So I'm
mm.
definitely leaning more and more into spirituality. That was one
Yeah,
side of my circle that's kind of halfway. We need to fill it up more.
need to
So
fill it up a bit
yeah.
more. And it's incredible because wherever you land on that, I guess on any part of that circle that you're filling out, is it comes back to the center, and that is very much what you said earlier on, and that's around, how does this make you feel? What's the feeling that is the outcome of whatever it is I'm coloring in, or working to? I know that's symbolism, to working towards something in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
100% true.
Beautiful. And then, do you have any? I know you touched on this a little bit, but do you have any routines, mindset practices, rituals that keep you courageous? So I know you talked about journaling there. You talked about Pilates that you do for yourself, not just your clients. But is there a routine or a system that keeps you courageous?
Absolutely. So for me, I start my morning off with 4-7-8 breathing, and I do it 3 times a day.
Hmm.
I believe that we need to use tools before we're in situations where we need to use
Hmm.
courage, because we need to work on keeping ourselves composed and calm before those difficult situations, because life ebbs and flows. It's never going to be linear happen. So for me, first thing in the morning, I've set myself up, I've calmed myself down. I do my 4-7-8 breathing.
Hmm.
I always open up curtains, let light in. Our circadian rhythm's really important, especially at 3 p.m. I know that that's typically where I dip.
Hmm.
So I need to make sure that I get into nature, get into light. In London, sometimes that's a little hard, but even the fresh air, it does the trick.
Hmm.
Um, for me, sitting down and eating without any electronics 3 times a
Hmm.
day is a
Hmm.
big thing. It's calm, it's honoring the food, appreciating the food on my plate.
Hmm.
Um, and then, yes, journaling and moving my body, not every single day. I don't have to work out hard, but moving my body in some way, even if that's just a, 20-minute burst of walk, because
Hmm.
movement doesn't have to be beating PBs or spending hours in the gym, but it can change our mental health. So I will
Hmm.
never go a day of entirely sitting on the sofa. So
Hmm.
I will always move my body in some way or other, but listening to what feels good to me. But I'm quite low key in terms of rituals for a health person because I'm about sustainability. And so I want
Mm,
to keep life sustainable and enjoy being healthy and listening to what my body needs each day.
yeah. Oh, love that. Sustainability is a foundational part of that.
Mhm.
Because you could be the best of the best for 3 months, right? But what does the rest of your life look like? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
If people were listening to this and moving on with their day, what would be one thing you'd love for them to take away? What would you like them to think, this is one area I can get a bit more courageous in?
To have the courage to fully feel their feelings, even when it's
Mm,
uncomfortable, trust in yourself, sit with the feelings.
mm, okay. And if they get to a place where they need some support, then to reach out, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. And then if people did want to reach out to you, how could they do that? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
I'm on Instagram, so Just Love Health, JESSLOVEHEALTH, Just Love Health.
Excellent. And
And
I'll make sure
my
there's a link.
got my website link and all of my contact details on there.
Brilliant. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, I'll put links to all of Jess's stuff in the description. So it's just one click away. And I know you were putting something together
Yes.
that was upcoming. Do you want to have a little self-promotion about what that is?
So I mentioned that I do a accountability book. It's something I give a lot of clients. So it's about holding yourself accountable. So you could do it with a friend or do it on your own, but it's basically a little challenge and it has many varying tools from podcasts to listen to, books and little things to do each
Mm,
week. So we don't throw loads of lifestyle changes at you. It's just weekly.
mm.
So I'm going to offer that to any of the listeners. If they would
Oh,
like,
amazing.
they can DM me and they can write encourage and I'll email it over to them.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. Thank you for
My
doing that.
pleasure.
Excellent. I might have to do that myself as well. So they just, so they DM you and they type in, did you say
And
go encourage?
go encourage. So
Go
let's
encourage.
go encourage, and I'll email that over to them.
And I'm cheekily saying that one of the podcasts that you'll get them to listen to is the Go Encourage podcast,
There
obviously,
we
right?
go. Of course.
I'm just kidding. Oh, fantastic. Well, it's been such a
Yes,
great
thank you.
conversation. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, and I hope you have a lovely weekend.
You too.
Thank
And
you.
if you're listening to this, wherever that is, you might be on Spotify, you might be on Apple Podcasts, you might be on Amazon, you might be on YouTube watching us, seeing our lovely faces. Our message to you is no matter what life throws at you, you have the decision to make, you have the opportunity to make decisions. So make them in courage and to keep moving forward and go in courage in everything that you do. So bye from me and Jess.
Bye.
Hey, really hope you enjoyed that episode, and I hope there was something there that you can take away and reflect on. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can do so publicly on YouTube via the comments, or if you prefer to be more private, you can DM me on Instagram, and the handle is @GoEncourage. You can also find links to everything at the website, which is www.goencourage.com. You can find a copy of the Courage Journal, links to TikTok, Instagram, and all the places that you can find Go Encourage online. You can also have a look at the upcoming Go Encourage blog, which is coming soon. So yeah, definitely do check that out. But my encouragement to you is whatever you're doing, whatever you're going through, keep moving forward and to go encourage. I'll see you on the next episode.